Now, Bronwyn, we're seeing Liberal donors, including billionaire Robert Milner, also stockbroker Angus Aitken, refuse to keep donating to the Liberal Party unless they see change. This was a story in the Australian newspaper today by Matt Cranston. Now, this isn't surprising, Bronwyn. Who would want to throw their hard-earned millions of dollars at a party that's in utter disarray?
Well, they're both sensible people. And they certainly don't want to see the Liberal Party disappear. They want to see it function properly. And I watched the language that was used. It was quite nuanced language, I thought. And I certainly, look, I can simply say we've been here before. And well, we've had resurgence.
That might be quite useful advice for you to share, Bronwyn. Tell us about the time you were last.
I was in the Houston campaign. And it felt like this last one. It really did. And Houston was meant to win that election. And of course, Keating won it with a big vote, 87 seats out of a smaller parliament, big vote. And it, to me, raises the question, are very large majorities a blessing or a curse? Because if you look at the way, and I just did a little chart. If you look at the way big majorities suddenly get dashed, you've got a much more difficult backbench to handle, you've got much more difficult issues to handle, and the voters seem to turn against them. So when Paul Keating won with 80 seats, John Howard next time got 94 seats. But his then majority went down to 80 because of the GST. He got lucky for the next two elections because we had the tamper, and believe me, we were on the nose in 2001, and then the tamper happened. And we got lucky again with Mark Latham in 2004. But in 2007, in comes Rudd with 83 seats. And then he loses and goes down to 72, and so it goes. It does move around.
I understand.
So don't ever write it off. And we've got 1 million people who are willing to have their say on what went wrong and why it was all terrible. It was terrible. It didn't have a proper narrative. It didn't spend the whole time talking about what we would do to bring down the cost of living. When it came to the petrol, halving of the tax on petrol, that was right because this was an ingredient, but it had to be spelt out how it would work and others. And then talk about what was in the wings, what's coming next if you re-elect these people. None of that was done.
But Bronwyn, I've got to get to Richo, so just a quick answer here. But we are looking at 6 years at least of Labor. I mean, if they have 90 seats now, you can't win that, and you can't pick up 40 or so seats in 3 years' time.
Paul Keating would have said that in 93. He would have thought he had 2 terms. He didn't. And when John Howard was re-elected in 2004 with that great big majority, he thought he was going to be there for another couple of terms too. He wasn't. So predicting politics from when you cop it, and we did cop it. We copped a hiding. And deservedly so, I have to say. But that doesn't mean to say that what the Liberal Party believes in and stands for, and we need in this country, a solid opposition. And so it's a question of getting behind them, not saying, oh, I'm going to stand back and just cry out and say it's all too hard. And people who are committed to a cause and want to see something, and Graham, you've been there, you know what it's like. You've got to get back in and fight.
You know, what are your reflections on what Bronwyn just said?
I agree with much of what you just said. Look, it's going to be the case, I think, that, you know, people are going to write terrible things about Peter Dutton and how he was a failure. But the failure is not just Peter Dutton. I mean, there's a whole party here who went along with policy prescriptions that the mob were never going to wear. I think, Bronwyn has been around long enough. She knows what policies you can sell and what you can't. There's a limit to all of it. And I think she's as well qualified as anyone I know to list them. And so you can bet that's what she was doing. But, hubris sometimes overtakes us.
And what do you think, Richard? Do you think we are looking at 6 years of Labor, 9 years of Labor now? What's
I don't think anyone can ever predict 9 years. I think that's going way over the top. But it would be, given this lead, very hard to peg it back in one election. So it is a reasonable thing to say that Labor's got 2 in the bag for this. It's not a certainty, nothing is, but in politics. But I'd have to say it's going to take a hell of an effort to beat Albo next time.